So, at this point, I'd like to make a special announcement. And earlier, we all heard from Dan Flynn. Dan has served as our CEO and Secretary General with distinction for the past 19 years, maybe longer than even he intended. And in particular, I'd say over the last 12 to 18 months, he's helped us ensure continuity and stability. Dan, I'm especially grateful to you for your partnership, your wise counsel, and friendship this past year. And so, it's very bittersweet that we're announcing today that Dan will step down later this year, as we thank him for nearly 20 years of outstanding service. As with every senior position at the Federation, we'll conduct a thorough search for his successor and will work for a seamless transition. There will be many more opportunities in the future to thank Dan for his many contributions. But Dan, you didn't think we let you off that easy today, did you? True to his Missouri roots, Dan is the very definition of Midwestern humility. He doesn't boast, he doesn't seek the limelight, and as a result, the scope of his impact is not always fully known on the outside. So I want to take this opportunity, if I may, today to briefly share a few highlights. And yes, Dan, we're going to embarrass you just a little. In Dan Flynn, In Dan Flynn, our Federation found the proven experience of a player, a business leader, and a soccer executive. As a star defender in college, he helped St. Louis University win the 1973 NCAA Soccer Championship. And I'm told that back then, he also had a pretty amazing afro. Wow. In business, he became president of Anheuser-Busch International at the age of 31. And in leadership positions at U.S. Soccer, so both at U.S. Soccer and at the Foundation, he helped fuel the growth of soccer in the late 1990s. Today, we see Dan's work as CEO in world-class facilities, from the National Training Center in Carson, California, to the National Training and Coaching Development Center in Kansas City, to the brand new National Soccer Hall of Fame in Frisco, Texas. We see his work in a renewed focus on national team and player development, especially our youth. In fact, during his tenure, our women's national team won 3 Olympic gold medals and a World Cup. And we see Dan's work in the critical role he helped in some of our greatest successes, from hosting the 2003 Women's World Cup with just 4 months to prepare, to the 2016 Copa America Centenario, which was a major boost to our financial security, to our successful bid to host the Men's World Cup in 2026. I have to point out, as many of you know, that Dan did this all in recent years while undergoing major surgery, a heart transplant, fully recovering and then getting back to work, often at a relentless pace. Dan is unstoppable. None of this comes without huge sacrifice. True, Dan has 2 great loves in his life, soccer and his family, but not in that order. All this time, his family has continued to live back home in St. Louis. Dan has commuted to Soccer House in Chicago just about every week for 25 years. And next month, he and his wife, Kathy, who's with us today, will celebrate their 41st wedding anniversary. On behalf of all of us, I want to thank Kathy and your daughters, Dan, Lauren, Annalise, and Aaron, their families, your grandchildren, for sharing Dan with us for all these years. Your legacy, Dan, will be felt in many other ways. So many at Soccer House, and people in this room today have their own stories. If they asked for 5 minutes of Dan's time, he'd give them 30. If they needed advice, he'd become a mentor. Dan, the example of your dedication, your decency, will continue to inspire those who have worked under you, the next generation of soccer leaders for many, many years to come. So I know I speak for many of us when I say that it's hard to imagine Soccer House without you. But you can look back on your tenure knowing that our federation and soccer in America is stronger than ever. In no small measure, Dan, because of you. So as I invite Dan to say a few words, I will ask you all please to join me in expressing our profound gratitude to our CEO, our friend, great champion of soccer in America, Dan Flynn.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I kind of pride myself on not being surprised, but I was very surprised. Carlos, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And somewhere, my wife, we're going to have a discussion about those pictures. But as Carlos was providing his wonderful introduction, I couldn't help but really stare at Hank. Hank and I are the only two people who have held this position really in about the last 30 years. And I will never forget the day I took over in the transition, and Hank said to me, Dan, I will do anything to help you succeed. I will do anything to help U.S. soccer succeed. And so anybody that knows Hank, he's a man of his word. He was there when the quirky hours when I would call, when things maybe weren't going so well. I got a lot of calls when he said, hey, congratulations. First one to always call when we had success on the field. But what I most appreciate about Hank was when he would call me and kind of say, hey, Dan, I think you guys are maybe going off the rails a little bit. He provided an incredible balance. So, Hank, thank you for your friendship. Thanks for your mentorship. So I'm frequently asked over the years, what's my favorite team? And obviously it's a trap question and one that I completely stay away from. But I will now reveal my favorite team today. It's my medical team. Obviously without them I wouldn't be here. So, but it would be impossible to thank all of my team members that I work with. I would be remiss, and I'm going to try to just recognize by name the 9 direct reports that I have. But they epitomize kind of the saying that it's not about recognition, it's about results. So Lydia, Jay, Brian, Pinky, Tanya, Neil, Nico, Asher, and Ernie, you make it easy to come in every day. It's easy to stay motivated, and you continue to motivate me. So thank you very much for your incredible dedication to U.S. soccer and making my job a whole lot easier. As I was thinking through my transition a number of years ago when Sunil and I were talking, and I was going through my calendar and looking at all the meetings, and I did it for about, 5, 6, 7 years, and I kept noticing a certain name that would kind of pop up on my schedule. And then I realized, I said, heck, I'm spending more time with Jay Berhalter than I am my wife. And so the transition proceeded. Sorry, Jay, but Kathy's better looking. I do want to, you always run a little bit of a risk. I mentioned 9 people, but I do want to mention Jay in particular. He worked with me at the foundation, and I was able to get him to come to U.S. Soccer. He did leave U.S. Soccer for a bit, and we were lucky enough to recruit him back. In any job, there's people that stay late, give you really good advice. They give you honest advice. You don't always like to hear it. But I really couldn't have accomplished, it's not me, we couldn't have accomplished a lot of what we've accomplished, quite frankly, without Jay. So Jay, a special thank you. When Bob Conaguglia and the board decided to hire me 18 and a half years ago, there really were 2 things that I thought we could do as an organization. One was build a brand, and the other was to try to find a way to be relevant in our sport 365 days a year. And if we accomplish both of those items, the financial success would kind of come along with it. And I think we've been able to accomplish that with the membership in this room. In terms of building the brand, you have to thank the athletes. They don the jersey, they wear the crest. What they do and the success on the field is so critically important to building our brand. But when they're playing for the national team, they go back. They have to have somewhere to go back to. And they go back to their clubs. And when you look at where we are today versus 20 years ago, that opportunity that was been provided by professional soccer in our country and the growth of that is really the reason that we are much more relevant as a sport. So I thank the athletes. I thank the grassroots at the youth and the adult level. You bring the joy to the game for the youngsters. You provide that platform of joy when they're adults. And on the relevancy, I just have to thank professional soccer. All three leagues, our Women's League, NWSL, USL, and most of all, Don, I wanted to thank you for your leadership, incredible growth that you brought to our sport. And in particular, and I've said this repeatedly, I'm not sure they get enough credit for the supporter culture that now exists in our country. These are fans that, they're not coming to the games. They're donning the scarves, they're going to the pubs, and they're marching to games. That's an incredible difference versus 20 years ago. And two, I know our fan council's here, to the fans who support all the national teams. Thank you very much. I wanted to be very brief. I didn't know this was all happening. I'm kind of scrambling through this a little bit. I apologize. But I've served under 4, but there have been 5 presidents that really have impacted my life. Werner Fricker, the man simply believed when nobody else did. I was in the beer business, and he asked to arrange a meeting with the president of Anheuser-Busch, who was a big fan. By the end of that meeting, the president of Anheuser-Busch was ready to double down. But Werner believed when very few others really didn't believe. Alan Rothenberg, who is not here, but staging the World Cup was what everybody talked about, but he saw it a lot differently. It was a 30-day party and a platform and a runway to start a Division I men's league. Simply nothing less than spectacular. Bob Conaguglia, thank you for hiring me. I would say of Bob, the integrity of the process, focus on principles, stay focused on the important things, how we get better. We'll never forget it. He kept it very simple, very powerful. Sunil, thank you for your dedication to the game. Thank you for your commitment to growth. And I will say this of Sunil, that I don't think he's gotten the credit for this particular point. He absolutely moved us to take risk. And that's not an easy thing to do, to move a member organization into a riskier proposition. But he built that into the staff in such a way it became very common. Very difficult to do, but really needed in the 12-year run that you had. So thank you very much, Sunil. Carlos, thank you for the kind introduction. I say of Carlos' vision. He presented a vision. You elected him in 18. Led the World Cup bid effort successfully. You heard today, Vision 2027. That's all balanced with a pursuit of excellence. It's a tough balance, but one that he handles quite well. So thank you, Carlos, not only for today and all the leaders and presidents, but thank you for what you're going to do for U.S. soccer in the years to come. So at the end of any journey, worthwhile journey, I think you take a moment and you kind of go back to your roots. And that's really what this is about for me. Reconnect a little bit, grandkids, family, friends that I've stayed connected with but haven't had a lot of personal contact. So, and with the grandkids, particularly Stella at 7, lives in Overland Park, and Danny and Jay in St. Louis, Missouri Youth Soccer and Kansas Youth Soccer, ready or not, here I come. So I talked about my favorite team. I'm going to talk about my toughest negotiation or conversation I ever had. and it's really an introduction to my wife. But when I was going and facing surgery, you're encouraged to talk about if you don't make it. It may sound kind of awkward today, so I designed this little get-together with my wife, and I said, look, if I don't make it, I want you to share your life with somebody else, and it did not go well. So I tried to add a little humor, and I said, would you let him drive my car? Would you let him sleep on the same side of the bed? That was the end of that. So it was a little chilly, and I said, if I only have one more question to ask you, would you let me do it, and I'll never ask you another question about this? She said, okay, if you promise. I said, I promise. So I said, would you let him use my golf clubs? She said, don't worry about it, he's left-handed. So I hope my wife is here. I don't see her, but and I will end, really it's about, in tough times, adding a little bit of humor and smiling and a little bit of collaboration, I think goes a long way. So I have everything to thank my wife about for allowing me to do this job all these years. And I will say publicly what I say to my wife every morning: I love the way you love me. So it's been an honor. For 18 and a half years, it's been a privilege. Carlos, thank you for your kind introduction. I'm very grateful. Thank you.